Hello friends and family, welcome back to Zizojigi's Media. I'm Zanele, and on today's video we're going to talk about ESL companies that are currently hiring. Before I give you the list of companies that I've researched about, I'd like to give you an overview of the general requirements that the companies will have from the candidates, the equipment you will need, especially if you're working from home, as well as the lesson materials, because I get a lot of questions about lesson materials, which we will dive into a bit later. So let's get right to it. The first requirement will be your CV, and the CV will have to be, of course, updated. And this is your opportunity to show off your skills as well as your qualifications to your potential employer. Other people also ask me about the template of the resume. They say, should it have my picture? Should I include a cover letter? And I say those things are not really necessary. I think that these days there's a lot of companies that use AI tools to identify certain keywords on your CV to see if you are a perfect match or a correct match for the position that they have. So all that matters is that in the resume, you include your personal details as well as your qualifications, experience, and references. That's it. I think those are the main things to include. The second requirement will be a TEFL certificate, and TEFL stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. This is important to note because it indicates kind of the level of English proficiency that your potential students will have. Most of the students that you will encounter are from, Southeast Asian countries, South American countries, West and East Europe, and these countries normally don't use English in their education systems. You'll find that, for example, students from China and South Korea and Japan, they learn all of their subjects in their home language, which means that they have limited exposure to English, and therefore that's where you come in as a teacher to give them the opportunity to practice using the language, to teach them basic grammar, and to boost their confidence in their potential to improve in speaking the language. So it's very important to pick a TEFL certificate that allows you to learn a little bit about the population that you'll be teaching, the demographic, as well as understanding the grammar requirements that you will need to know as a teacher. And typically the companies will want you to have 120 hours minimum of a TEFL certificate, and you can even find it for free. There's a website called Teacher Record. You can register a profile there, and within a day or two, if you give yourself enough time, you could have gotten your TEFL certificate, or you could have completed the different modules on there. So it's not hard, it's not difficult at all to get a TEFL certificate, so definitely do give it a try. The third requirement is a university degree, and most of the companies will require a university degree from the candidate, especially because since COVID-19, we've seen a lot of startups, a lot of new companies, coming up, and it has made competition tough between the candidates. So if you have a university degree, that definitely makes, the opportunity easier for you to access. But if you don't have a university degree, please do not despair. There are certain companies that you can apply to. I will mention them later in this video, and I have made previous videos as well talking about this. So do not despair if you don't have a university degree, but if you do have one, then it will be an advantage. Next, the companies will say that they want a neutral accent, and here I do get questions as well. People say, Ruth, what is a neutral accent? And I think it's an accent that does not give away where you're from. Right, I'm South African, and most of the time when I speak to my students, they can't immediately tell that I'm South African because, if I speak and I pronounce certain words, I do so in a way that is very clear for them to understand, that they're not confused by my dialect. So I think that's what a neutral accent is. Maybe it's one that is very clear and easy to understand, especially to a speaker of English as a foreign language. If someone speaks English as a foreign language, maybe the only exposure they've had to English is through movies, or cartoons. And I know that a lot of those movies and cartoons that they watch are American. So maybe American English is what they're used to. And I'm not saying you need to fake an American accent or anything like that, but try to make sure that you are clear and articulate enough for the student to understand. Because some of the applicants that I've spoken to, they get rejected on their application because they are told that they have a strong accent, an accent that might be confusing for a speaker of a foreign language to understand. So I guess that's what the neutral accent part is about. And then next, you also need to make a 1 minute long intro video. Very important, a 1 minute long intro video, because they want to hear how you sound. They want to see you teaching, speaking about yourself in a very short period of time. And in that 1 minute, you have an opportunity to tell the company who you are, to tell them your qualifications, to tell them how you would make the environment in your classroom conducive for your students. So I have an example of an intro video that I want to put up here, and you can watch it and just get an idea of how you can go about it. I made this video when I was applying to teach on Native Camp. Webcam, which is another platform that is very nice, especially if you don't have a degree. So yeah, let me just show you what my intro video looked like, and you'll get an idea as well for yours. Hi there, my name is Ruth. I am 26 years old. I'm from South Africa and I'm a qualified teacher. Currently, I teach English as a second language in South Korea. I started teaching in Korea in August of 2022, and I really enjoy the work that I do. I really enjoy teaching English online because it is a way to learn about different cultures, meet different people, and expand my knowledge as a person. I always encourage my students to be confident in their English speaking abilities, and I help them improve with my warm, welcoming spirit. I cannot wait to see you, and I highly encourage you to book a session with me today. So now that we've spoken about the requirements, let's get into the equipment. Many of these teaching opportunities will require you to have equipment and teach remotely. So this means you will teach from the comfort of your own home. You will need a laptop, and usually they want the laptop that is maybe at least an i3, an i5, the latest generations, so that the processing power of the laptop is fast enough to hold, the platform. Because usually the companies will have a teaching platform that you have to download or log into, and it takes a lot of processing power to display the graphics to the students and so on. So you need a laptop, and preferably one that is a newer or more recent generation. And next, you will need a webcam. This is to make sure that you've enhanced, the imaging. The students can see you clearly. If you're smiling, they can see your smile. And you also need a neutral background and a conducive environment that is quiet, so that people are not moving up and down, disturbing the students. Next, you need good lighting, and here I always recommend that if you're a teacher, just get a ring light. If you live in South Africa, you can get one for at least 200 rands, and usually the height of the ring light is adjustable so that you can place it in front of you on the desk if needs be. You can get a desk ring light that is foldable, and then you can just put it next to you when you're teaching so that the students can see you clearly. You also need to have Ethernet. So they prefer, cable connection instead of portable Wi-Fi, because portable Wi-Fi is easily interruptible. So if you have Ethernet connection or you have a LAN cable, then it makes it more stable and the students will not face any interruptions while they speak to you. Next, you will need learning materials. And that brings me to the next point about learning materials. So, all the companies that I've taught for, they develop their own material. They have a certain standard that they follow. They know that they have a certain process of teaching, and they much prefer the teacher to use the platform's material. However, on some of the platforms, I know that with italki, sometimes you might have to create your own lesson material, maybe create a PowerPoint presentation about any topic that the student chooses. If that's the case, I don't think that will be very, very hard, but I will say that most of the time the lesson material is provided by the company. I'm also currently teaching English online full-time. That's my current full-time job. And the company I work for right now, they do have lesson materials provided. However, there are many, many occasions where the students will make what is called a custom request. Let's say the student is a medical doctor, and this student wants to understand how to give a presentation in English about medical topics and medical terminology. So if the student makes such a requirement, or if they make such a request and say, hey teacher, I'd like to talk about medical terminology because I'm giving a presentation for an international conference, then it's the responsibility of the teacher in that regard to make a little bit of research and prepare some external material that they will use in discussion with that student. A lot of our students will come with specific requests because they work in different fields. They have different life experiences. Some of them are students, some of them work, some of them are teachers, some of them are doctors, some of them they are waitresses and waiters, and they're looking for, language that they will speak with their customers who are maybe tourists. So you will find that the needs of your students are very, very different. Their backgrounds and their contexts are different. And so that will determine what topics they prefer to talk about and the lesson material you might have to design. And just like that, I think we've created a very solid foundation for this video in terms of explaining what ESL is, the different requirements that companies might have from candidates, the equipment you will need if you're working from home, and just providing clarity about lesson materials. So now that's out of the way, let's get into the companies. I will start by mentioning these three. If you live in South Africa, especially in Johannesburg, there are three companies where you can work at the center. This is called Hey Teacher, EF, English First or EF Digital, as well as MPC Connect. These 3 companies provide you a unique opportunity to work at their centers where you don't need to purchase any of the equipment that I mentioned earlier. You don't need to buy a laptop, you don't need to buy a webcam, because with EF and MPC and Hey Teacher, you can work at their center and work a regular stable shift where you clock in and clock out. They provide all the equipment, headsets, webcams, the computer, the connection, the internet connection. So I much prefer that kind of setup because, you know, equipment is expensive. And in South Africa, we know that there's unpredictable things about power shortages and load reduction and load shedding and all of that. So if you have a university degree and if you have a TEFL certificate, then you certainly can look up these 3 companies and work at their center. So the rest of the companies then that I will mention are remote. You will not be able to go to the center because they are based in, you know, international headquarters. So all of these ones will need you to have the equipment that I mentioned earlier. The first one is QKids. With QKids, the application process is a bit rigorous. So you do apply on their website, you fill in an application form, and you upload the 1-minute demo video that we spoke about earlier. Once they've seen the demo video, once they've seen your application and your resume, they will respond typically within 3 days. They will tell you whether you made it or not. And if you're proceeding, they will ask you to an interview. On the interview, they will ask you about, you know, your teaching philosophy. They will want to see the teaching environment that you'll be in. So in the QKids interview and in all the interviews, essentially, always pretend as though you are preparing for your student. So have your headset on, have that clear background. If you have some props that you want to show on your screen, have those props. Dress professionally and make sure that the interviewer can see what kind of teaching environment and teaching background you will have. So that's with QKids. They will ask you to apply online. Once they've seen the application, they will ask you to an interview. Once they've interviewed you, they will schedule 3 or 4 demo lessons. All right, so with these demo lessons, you will be teaching actual students. And I forgot to mention that with QKids, you're only teaching children. So these are people, I think, from the ages of 3 to 12 or 3 to 10, something like that. But these are very young kids. So you will have to be energetic and animated. And as I said, have an uninterrupted power supply, a quiet and conducive environment, have some props if you prefer to use those. And you will be teaching an actual student. The parents will be looking into that video. And after those 3 or 4 demo lessons are completed, QKids will have a look. They will look at the teacher's performance and how the parents rated the teacher in the demo lessons, and that will determine whether or not you get the job. So with QKids, it's very important to take it seriously, especially the demo lessons, because that's what determines how much you will earn, and that's what will determine whether or not you make it in. The next company is called The Really Great Company. The next one is Carrot English. Carrot English is new, it's Korean, so most of your students there will be from Korea. The next one is Craving English, and then we have Verbling, Magic Ears, and Berlitz, right? So just to recap, we have Berlitz, Magic Ears, Verbling, Core English, Carrot English, The Really Great Company, and QKids. The last one I want to talk about is Native Camp. I've made a separate video about Native Camp and their application process, but I just wanted to emphasize that if you don't have a university degree, you can try applying to this platform. With them, the application process is rigorous too, and I've gotten a lot of messages where teachers say, hey, I'm done with the application process, but right now they want my passport to identify me or to confirm my identification. So unfortunately, if you are applying for Native Camp, you need to have a passport. Because it's an international company, I think it's based in the Philippines or Japan, they can only use your passport to identify or confirm who you are. So if you don't have a passport, I would recommend that you apply for it today. You will use it as your identification when applying with Native Camp, and of course you'll use it to travel in the near future. So yeah, I think with Native Camp, I have to point out that you need to have a passport. You need to also have a Payoneer account. So with Native Camp, they don't pay you using PayPal. They use another platform that's called Payoneer. And with Payoneer, you will have to just download the app and upload some documents, fill in your personal details, and then they will verify the validity of your account in about a week. And then after that, you can receive the income into your account. However, another disclaimer with Native Camp is that you cannot withdraw the amount you've been paid until you've made at least $100. So if you don't have $100 in your Payoneer account, you will not be able to withdraw that into your bank account. So with Native Camp, unfortunately, it will need you to teach a lot of classes consistently so that you can quickly put together that $100 threshold and be able to withdraw the money and enjoy the fruits of your labor. So I think that with regards to Native Camp, it's a good platform, but in the beginning, it can be a bit draining because you won't get students very easily. You might have to do what is called standby. So just logging on and waiting for students to pick you based on your profile and then having lessons with them. So Native Camp is not very, very easy in the beginning, but once you've built rapport and you've kind of established yourself as a teacher on the platform, it does get easier. So other companies that don't require a university degree include Cambly and italki and Preply. So these are other companies that you can apply to, and you can just upload your 1-minute introduction video, create a very nice and attractive profile that will stand out to your students so that they can choose you. And you know that you have to set a competitive rate so that students are attracted to your profile. So maybe lower, your rate per lesson in the beginning for these platforms, and then over time you can increase the amount that you require. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Just ESL companies that are currently hiring, encouraging you to take that intro video seriously and to also take the lessons on the TEFL certificate very seriously, because students will ask you questions about grammar. They will tell you, teacher, how do I use a gerund? Teacher, why do I have to place this preposition here and not there? If you don't know how to answer that, the students will not be happy and they will rate you low, or they will possibly never book you again. So take the TEFL course seriously, take the intro video seriously, and all the best with your application.